A deadly attack on a train travelling between India and Pakistan will not disrupt peace efforts. At least that's the vow from Pakistan's President Pervez Musharraf, after at least 66 people were killed.
Many of them were trapped inside the Samjhauta Express after explosions, then fire swept through two carriages. The doors of the train were locked, the windows barred because of security concerns. Well, the so-called peace train was only one of only two linking India and Pakistan. Well, the train had pulled out of Delhi at 10:40 p.m. local time, heading for Attari, the last station before the heavily guarded border. At Attari, passengers switched to a Pakistani train that takes them on to Lahore. But at 11:55, just before it arrived at the town of Panipat, about 80 kilometers north of Delhi, the carriages were engulfed in flames. From Delhi, Rajesh Sundaram now reports.
This is the charred wreckage of the Attari Express, the oldest and the most important passenger rail link between India and Pakistan. Most passengers were sleeping when two explosions ripped through carriages, triggering a fire that completely gutted two compartments. More than 60 were killed and around 14 injured. Because of security concerns between Pakistan and India, the doors of the train are locked and the windows barred. Most of the victims were Pakistanis returning home.
We helped, but none of them survived. Almost all of them died. We had arrived here by 12 o'clock. There was so much fire, so much fire. I have never seen anything like it in my life. It was too much.
The injured have been rushed to New Delhi, a 2.5-hour journey by road from the site.
We have brought 4 serious patients here. All of them have burns and the doctors are assisting them. 2 of the children are Pakistani citizens. Rest also seem as if they are Pakistanis. We will be able to know properly when they get conscious.
This board with names of those injured is all the Indian Railways have done to inform anxious relatives. There are no officials here to give Haqiqat Ali any information about his missing brother and family. He tells me helpline telephone numbers too are not being attended.
Our relatives in Pakistan have been calling me up to find out about the fate of my brother and his family, but I have absolutely no information. The railways are of no help. They just say that more than 60 are dead. I'm going to Panipat to search there.
This incident comes just a day before Pakistan's foreign minister is expected in New Delhi for talks to further the peace process. The Indian Home Ministry calls it sabotage, although they have stopped short of blaming militant groups based in Pakistan.
We will know the organization responsible for this after investigations. But those responsible for this incident clearly want to derail the ongoing peace process between India and Pakistan and want to incite communal passions.
Pakistan reacted by laying the blame squarely on India. Pakistan Foreign Office officials suspect the involvement of Hindu extremists, acting to revenge for last year's suburban train bombings in Mumbai, which left more than 180 dead. For thousands of mostly Muslim families divided after India's partition, this train is the cheapest means of transport to visit their relatives across the border. It's the first time since the service started its operations over 40 years ago that it has been a target of sabotage. The line represents a crucial link between the two countries and a passage for peace. But this time, it's ordinary families who have been made the victims. Rajesh Sundaram, Al-Jazeera, Delhi.
Well, it was her 12th visit to the Middle East in 2 years, but like the others, it's ended without a breakthrough.
Yes, so the US Secretary of State is about to head home now after a summit with Palestinian and Israeli leaders, but she expects to be back soon, saying all sides did commit to a two-state solution. Jackie Rowland has more from Jerusalem.
It had been billed as a trilateral summit, the start of a new chapter in the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. The greetings were warm, the small talk polite, but there was no disguising the hollowness of this meeting. Condoleezza Rice declined to speak about the agenda before going into the talks, and she also didn't have much to say when she came out.
The President and Prime Minister agreed that they would meet together again soon. They reiterated their desire for American participation and leadership in facilitating efforts to overcome obstacles, rally regional and international support, and move forward toward peace. In that vein, I expect to return to the region soon.
Outside the hotel where the summit was held, a small group of Israeli peace activists. They want their leaders to talk to a Palestinian unity government, whether it formally recognizes Israel's right to exist or not. But these are minority voices.
I'm very concerned that my government prefers to expand the settlements and therefore to put off peace rather than to work for peace now.
Khan Yunis refugee camp in Gaza. These are the people who have most to gain if a real peace process gets underway. For the past year, they've been suffering from international sanctions imposed on the Palestinian Authority. Hamas today accused the Americans of using pressure and blackmail, a view shared by ordinary Gazans. What will Condoleezza Rice do for us? Asks this woman. She has orders from Bush. She comes for nothing. Prime Minister Olmert has said he will keep talking to President Abbas, despite his doubts about the Palestinian Unity government. These are complicated times, but as Condoleezza Rice said, if she waited for an uncomplicated time in the Middle East, she would never get on a plane. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, Jerusalem.
Israeli police have clashed with Jewish settlers trying to resist eviction in the West Bank. Scuffles broke out in Hebron as settlers were served with a court warrant ordering them to leave a Palestinian market shop they were occupying. Palestinian witnesses claim several Jewish settlers had broken into the shop on Sunday night. At least one settler was arrested and some are reported to have remained after the police left.
2 suicide car bombings west of Baghdad have killed at least 11 people and wounded 4 others. The attacks were in the city of Ramadi. Police say 2 suicide bombers targeted the house of a tribal leader who's led a campaign to fight Al-Qaeda in Al-Anbar province. And a bomb has exploded on a bus in Baghdad, killing 5 people and wounding 11 others. Police say the blast happened during the morning rush hour as the bus travelled towards the mostly Shiite district of Karada. The attack came despite the new security clampdown in the Iraqi capital. It followed a similar blast on Sunday, which killed more than 60 people.
European Union sanctions against Zimbabwe have been renewed for another year, and they'll include a travel ban against President Robert Mugabe.
The sanctions were imposed because of Zimbabwe's human rights record. But as Haru Mutasser explains from Harare, it's the long-suffering poor people who are bearing the brunt.
5 years of economic sanctions and life seems to have gone from bad to worse. Consumers are struggling to survive with annual inflation soaring above 1,600%, the highest in the world. Without warning, the price of basic food commodities can double in a week. Sanctions were first imposed after the government embarked on its controversial land reform program. They were meant to target the country's political elite. Unfortunately, it's the poor who've been hit the hardest.
The sanctions, they are just attacking almost everybody. In fact, some of the people who are not politicians, some of the people who are Christians and so forth. So everybody is being infected.
It's tough luck. When you look at the situation, you can see people, everybody in the street selling bits and pieces. That is to say, everybody is hungry in his house.
Over the years, the country became isolated from the international community. Foreign investors pulled out and some companies were forced to close. Unemployment is now more than 70%. John and Patson lost their jobs 3 years ago. The factory they worked for had to let most of its staff go when the economy took a nosedive. Both men have families to feed, so they sell sandals to put food on the table. The pickings are slim. Between the two of them, they can make up to 10 sandals a day and can go a whole week without selling a single one.
It's time that things are very difficult, especially for us young people. Still wake up in the morning, no work to do, go there to workplaces, can't find a job.
Every sector of society has been affected. Agricultural production, once Zimbabwe's economic backbone, has dropped by 40%. Doctors and nurses have been on strike for nearly 2 months, and more mass action is expected. A nationwide strike has been called for Tuesday. The mood is tense and people are losing patience. The government is only just managing to keep people in line by force. The international community is trying to deal with Zimbabwe by imposing travel bans and sanctions, but so far nothing seems to have worked.